Good evening. I hereby call to order the November 29th, 2023 meeting of the Gaithersburg Historic District Commission. For our roll call, please answer present when I call your name. Community Planning Manager Greg Mann.
Present.
Deputy City Attorney Frank Johnson.
Present.
Planner Samuel Copeland.
Present.
Commissioner Mark Feinstein.
Present.
Commissioner and Vice Chairman John Roddy.
Present.
Alternate Commissioner Kathleen Ramirez.
Present.
And myself, Commissioner and Chairman Dean Ventola, is present. So we have a quorum. And Commissioner Ramirez's role tonight is as a full commissioner. Next is our preliminary statement, which is as follows. This commission is empowered to meet and act under Article 12 of the City Code of Gaithersburg. The technical qualifications of the staff of this commission and the members of this commission are on file with the City of Gaithersburg, are available on request to any applicant, and are hereby made a part of the legal record of each and every application heard tonight. Each application heard tonight is considered on its own merits and is not to be considered as establishing a precedent for any other application. Lastly, any member from the public who wishes to speak on one of tonight's applications will be given 3 minutes to address the HGC from the podium at the reserved time. But we ask that you refrain from speaking out from the audience and that you take any private conversations outside of the council chambers. Okay, does any commissioner have any conflicts of interest for any application be heard tonight? If so, please verbally indicate so.
Mr. Commissioner, if I may, with regard to item 3B, DEMO 31922-2023, I believe I should recuse myself, not only because of the long association I've had with the parish that is the owner, but with that big building in particular.
Okay, wonderful. All right, at that time, I guess.
I will physically remove myself.
Wonderful. Okay, very good. Thank you. Anybody else have any issues? Okay, very good. All right, so next we have on the agenda one set of minutes needing approval, which is from our September 27th, 2023 meeting. Does any commissioner have any corrections or additions to the meeting minutes?
No.
Everybody read them here, okay? All right. So I make a motion to adopt the minutes as written. May I have a second?
I would second that.
All right, then all those in favor of adopting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? No, so that's 4-0, it passes. Thank you. Next, we have 2 demolition permit application reviews, the first of which is as follows. DEMO 31916-2023, which is the demolition of a building 50 years or older at 434 Gaither Street in the R90 medium density residential zone. May we have an introduction from staff, please?
Yes, good evening, everyone. The subject property is located at 434 Gaither Street, as shown on the screen, in the Deer Park neighborhood and was built circa 1946. It is zoned R90 medium density residential. The applicant seeks to replace the vacant house with a 1-story, 2,204 square foot house. The Planning Commission approved the project at its October 18th meeting as part of SP-9618-2023. The proposed residence was not subject to an HDC review because it is not located within a courtesy review area. The application comes before the HDC this evening in accordance with Section 24231B of the City Code, which requires HDC review for buildings 50 years or older to determine if they meet the designation criteria under Section 24-226. The criteria for historical and cultural significance is listed here, and the criteria for architectural and design significance is here. The property was not included in either the 2003 or 2018 elements. It is located in the Deer Park neighborhood, which was listed in the 2018 element on a table titled Other Neighborhoods of Note, with other neighborhoods that require further research to determine whether or not they possess historic significance. So the next 4 slides show aerial photos of the subject property. So the 1.5-story bungalow style building measures 649 square feet and is located on the 0.45 acre property. The original section has a gable roof covered with asphalt shingles. The approximately 240 square foot rear addition and covered porch was added circa 1985, has a gable and shed roof covered with asphalt shingles. An asphalt parking pad is located in the front yard. A stone retaining wall extends along the parking pad and also extends along Gaither Street. The remainder of the expansive yard is grass with intermittent trees and bushes. So the building has a block foundation that supports the wood frame walls. The walls are covered with asbestos shingles on the original portion and board and batten on the addition. Windows include 6/6 and 2/2 sash, 1 light hopper, and 1/1 sliding. The main entrance has a 1-story covered porch with shed roof. It is supported by 2 wood columns and wood picket railings with a wood porch floor. Ornamentation includes wood window and door surrounds. A brick chimney is located on the left side elevation, as you see here. So as shown in this image, the right side of the building is surrounded by dense vegetation. So a brief history of the property. It was part of the 682-acre Deer Park tract that was surveyed in 1720. Mary Augusta Hutton sold lots from Deer Park in the late 19th and early 20th centuries before conveying the remaining land, measuring approximately 160 acres, to her descendants. The lot that is now 434 Gaither Street was created in 1946 as part of a subdivision of the Deer Park neighborhood and was annexed into the city in 1947. So Charles Dick King Burdett purchased the property in 1946 and was likely the first occupant of the residence. He was born in 1917 and grew up on a farm in Damascus. He was listed as a service station attendant in the 1950 U.S. Census, the most recent census publicly available, and he died in 1990. His wife, Ruby Leona Purdom, was born in 1925 and also grew up on a Damascus farm. She owned 434 Gaither Street until 1991 after Charles died, and she passed away in 2010. Their daughter, Rebecca Burdett Kessel, was born in 1949 and died earlier this year, and son Charles Chuck Burdett was born circa 1948 and apparently is still living. John David Jr. and Eugenia David purchased the property from Ruby Burdett in 1991. It is unlikely the Davids ever resided in the house, and records indicate it was a rental property from at least 1994 to 2006. The current owners, Murad Qasimi and Rashi Shebra, purchased the property in 2022. Staff believes 434 Gaither Street lacks historic and cultural significance and architectural and design significance, and the reasonable probability of historic designation of the property by the mayor and city council is not evident. So the applicant, Yoni, is here to answer any questions.
Welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Please state your name for the record, your full name.
Yeah, Johnny Siosia.
Okay, and would you like to add anything further to what Sam has already relayed?
Well, what we try to do is build a new house around 2,200 square foot at one level. What we try to do is build a cross space 50 inches above the ground. We want to put siding on the side. We don't have any pictures for the new construction.
No, just the old.
No. Okay. So when we try to see the condition in this property, I bring my friend. He is a structural engineer. He gave me a report about this property, and everything is in bad shape. This house is built with 2x6 pressure treated joists out the code, and when we walk inside, the subfloor is completely bent around 10 inches down to the ground. So that is technically what is here. I mean, we try to build something much better and look much better in the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Okay, so next then is the public is now invited to speak. In-person participants, please line up at the podium to be sworn in. For those wanting to speak remotely by Zoom, we will have that after those present speak. Don't rush up too quick. Nope, nobody? Okay, very good. Can we then, tech team, please play the video in case there's someone online who wants to speak?
Good evening. If you've connected to the meeting tonight via Zoom and you're on a desktop or a laptop and you wish to make a public comment, we can't currently see or hear you. What you need to do, please, is wiggle your mouse around and look towards the bottom center of your screen. You should see a raise hand button. Go ahead and click on that now for us, please. Alternatively, if you've connected in via telephone, you can press *9.
We have no one with their hand raised.
Okay, very good. All right, next then, let's hear from the commissioners. And Commissioner Feinstein, you're up first.
Okay, great. For this house, I agree with the staff in the sense that just because a building is over 50 years old does not mean it's significant historically or architecturally, and I don't think this building is. So I agree that it does not meet the standard, and I have no issues with it being demolished.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Commissioner Roddy.
Thank you. I would first commend staff for its research, allowing us to make a reasoned decision on the meager facts that are available. I have to agree that I don't think this meets the criteria either historically or architecturally.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ramirez.
And I agree with both of my co-commissioners.
Okay,
That it
very good.
doesn't mean-
Succinct. And I agree with everybody. I agree with the staff, and I agree with the applicant that it's not worth preserving. Okay, so it doesn't seem like we need to do any further discussion. So then, may I have a motion to either send the city manager a directive to not withhold the demolition permit, or to petition the mayor and council for implementing further study? You have two choices.
I move that the Historic District Commission, based on the exhibits submitted in the staff reports, findings and recommendations, make a determination that the building 50 years old or older, located at 434 Gaither Street, does not meet the criteria for historic or architectural significance as specified in 24-226 of the City Code, and does not direct the city manager to withhold issuance of Demo-31916-2023.
So essentially, we're sending a directive to the city manager to not withhold the demolition permit. Okay, so.
I second it.
Very good, thank you very much. All right, so if you agree with the motion, say aye, I'll call your name. If you are opposed to it, say nay, or abstain if you wish. Commissioner Feinstein.
Aye.
Commissioner Roddy.
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Aye.
And Commissioner Ventola says aye, so the motion passes 4-0. Congratulations.
Good luck with the new
Thank you.
house.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Okay, next then, we have the second demolition permit, which is DEMO 31922-2023, which is demolition of a building 50 years old or older at 110 South Frederick Avenue in the R90 medium density residential zone. May we have introduction from staff, please?
Yes. So the subject property, as shown on the screen, is located at 110 South Frederick Avenue. This is also zoned R90, medium density residential. The applicant, St. Martin, seeks to raise the building because it is in disrepair and attracts vagrants, so they would like to demolish the building. They provide an estimate that it would cost upward of $2.2 million to return the building to occupancy. The application comes before the HDC in accordance with section 24231B of the City Code, which requires HDC review for buildings 50 years or older to determine if they meet the designation criteria under section 24226. The criteria for historical and cultural significance is listed here on the screen. And the criteria for architectural and design significance is also now on the screen. The subject property is listed on the Other Resources of Note table in the 2003 Historic Preservation element of the Gaithersburg Master Plan. In the 2018 element, the property is included within Observatory Heights, which is on a table titled Potential Historic Resources. Further, the property individually is included on the table titled Other Resources of Note. So this right here is the front elevation. The 2.5-story folk Victorian-style building measures 4,320 square feet and is located on the 3.61-acre property. The original core of the house has a brick foundation. The wood frame walls are covered with asbestos shingle siding, which replaced the original wood siding. The cross gable roofs are covered with replacement asphalt shingles. Some of the original wood sash windows are paired with metal storm windows. Ornamentation includes bays on the front and left side elevations, cornices, barge boards, wood corner boards, wood window surrounds, and brackets. The brick chimney is located on the rear elevation. The cellar is accessible from the double metal doors at the base of the rear elevation near the chimney. So, the front elevation is 4 window bays wide, as shown on the screen, including the westernmost bay that has a front-facing projecting gable end. The bay is 2.5 stories tall, excuse me, with decorative cornice, brackets, and a metal hip roof. A shed roof dormer on the side facing gable was added at an unknown date and then enclosed. The 1-story covered porch was entirely rebuilt within the past 20 years. It has a shed roof covered with a crimped metal roof. The square columns, floorboards, and stairs are built of a composite material. The porch railing and decorative spindles are made of vinyl. A small porch at the southeast corner was enclosed pre-1960, and a new porch roof was added. Circa 1960, the new porch was also enclosed as well, and a concrete foundation poured and a metal canopy was added. So this is the front as stated before. This is the left side elevation where you can see the small addition was added. This is the rear addition where the chimney and cellar are located. This is the right elevation. And here is a detail of the front projecting bay and cornice with brackets. So as you note, as you see in the staff report, there's a much more detailed history there, but what follows is a brief history of the building. The Lodge family were the first owners in 1880 after John T. DeSelum, the longtime owner of Summit Hall, subdivided his land on the west side of South Frederick Avenue into 4-acre lots between Diamond Avenue and Summit Avenue, and large homes were built on each of the lots. The first lots were sold to Eliza and Philemon Smith and James and Alice Lodge. The lots were annexed into the Gaithersburg town limits in 1888. Those lots are shown in this 1894 map of Gaithersburg. You can see here that the one in red is where the subject property is currently located. James Llewellyn Lodge was born in 1840 in Montgomery County. He attended Allegheny College and received his Doctor of Divinity degree from Wake Forest. He entered the ministry in 1859, and his first church was in Baltimore County. His wife, Alice Warfield, was born in Maryland in 1847. They were married in 1864 in Montgomery County and had 8 children, 5 of whom lived to adulthood. The Lodges lived in Pittsburgh and Newark, New Jersey, before they moved to Gaithersburg in the 1880s, so James could recuperate from his health issues and take a job as pastor of North Church in Washington, D.C. In 1883, the Lodges built what is today 110 South Frederick Avenue and named it Arnmoor. James was an influential and moral and thought leader in the community. He was the first president of the Waverly Literary Club, a local group formed in 1889 with the intent to establish a library in Gaithersburg and host high-level lectures and discussions. Lodge was secretary of the Western District Association of the Maryland Baptist Union and was pastor of a church in Hagerstown and Columbia Baptist Mission in Washington, D.C. James Lodge died November 19, 1907, and Alice followed on February 4, 1919. They both were buried in the Darnestown Presbyterian Church Cemetery. James's obituary in the front of the Washington Star newspaper is shown here. In 1914, the Catholic Church purchased land at the northwest corner of South Frederick Avenue and Summit Avenue to establish a church. In 1920, Reverend John Cuddy had 3 Army mess halls delivered to the property for use as a chapel. The Sisters of Notre Dame de Namur, who were based in Washington, D.C., began to teach Sunday school at St. Martin's in October 1923, and the church opened Montgomery County's first Catholic school in 1925. Reverend Cuddy encouraged the Archdiocese of Baltimore's purchase of what is now 110 South Frederick Avenue for $11,500 to serve as a home for the sisters. The grounds at the time were planted with a vegetable garden, grapevines, pear, quince, and apple trees. This place was renovated to open a heating and plumbing system at a cost of $3,100 and reopened in February 1926 as the Notre Dame Convent with 3 sisters in residence. They lived there until 1973. In 1930, the church built the rectory, now used as a parish office. In 1957, the church, led by Monsignor Paul E. Meyer, completed its current sanctuary. After Reverend Meyer's retirement, he moved into 110 South Frederick Avenue, and the building was named after him. He lived in the home until his death in 1993. After Father Meyer's death in 1993, other priests lived at 110 South Frederick Avenue, and it has been vacant for about 10 years now. In 1996, the 2.5-story rectory and garage at 10 DeSelum Avenue was approved as part of Site Plan S-697I, and the building opened 2 years later. In 2010, the 1-story convent was built at 7 George Street, approved as part of Amendment to Final Plan AFP-08-022. Staff is of the opinion the building at 110 South Frederick has retained much of its original form, materials, and expansive lot and meets the following designation criteria. Section 24.226.1a has character, interest, or value as part of the development, heritage, or cultural characteristics of the city, county, state, or nation. 1c is identified with a person or a group of persons who influence society. 1d exemplifies the cultural, economic, social, political, or historic heritage of the city and its communities. 2a embodies the distinctive characteristics of a type, period, or method of construction. 2c possesses high artistic values. 2e represents an established and familiar visual feature of the neighborhood, community, or city due to its singular characteristic or landscape. And finally, 2f embodies design, setting, materials, workmanship, and ambiance to the city's sense of time, place, and historic development. Staff does have doubts of the reasonable probability of historic designation in accordance with Section 24.231 D2B based on the based on the cost to bring the vacant building back into active use. But it is hopeful the designation process will be initiated and the building will ultimately be retained with a viable new use. Here in the audience, we have Reverend David Wells, here to answer any questions.
Welcome.
Thank
Please
you.
state your name for the record.
Reverend David Wells.
Thank you. Please go ahead and add anything you'd like to have us know.
Sure, I think excellent history that was just read of our property, Father Meyer House, as it's come to be known. And I think just to restate maybe the case that we're presenting tonight for why we would like it to be demolished is I arrived almost 5 years ago, December 2018, and found the house in a state of disrepair, like it looks currently. It had been abandoned for, I think, about 10 years at that point. I think it's somewhere along 12 or 13 years now that it has not been used at all. If you go inside, the rodents have gotten in and animals have gotten in and people have gotten in, and it's really become an eyesore in our neighborhood. In addition to being an eyesore, it's dangerous. It attracts people, right? Especially around Halloween and times like that, where they want to check it out and poke around, and it's really a dangerous property at this point. The cost of refurbishing it and using it for us as a parish is exorbitant. It's more than it will be worth for us to refurbish and use it in a way that we see would be beneficial to us at this point. It's in a location that for us is not very advantageous. it's back off of 355 in a residential section. We have two residences back there currently. So it just doesn't, it's not advantageous, location wise. So I think for those reasons, that's why we've come to the conclusion that we have as a parish to ask for demolition.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other people from the applicant who wants to speak before we go to the public? No? Okay, very good. All right. So now the public is now invited to speak. In-person participants, please line up at the podium to be sworn in. Okay, and I see no one here and see no one. All right, so for those wanting to speak remotely by Zoom, tech team, please play the video again.
Good evening. If you've connected to the meeting tonight via Zoom and you're on a desktop or a laptop and you wish to make a public comment, we can't currently see or hear you. What you need to do, please, is wiggle your mouse around and look towards the bottom center of your screen. You should see a raise hand button. Go ahead and click on that now for us, please. Alternatively, if you've connected in via telephone, you can press *9.
We currently have up one. Jeffrey Sylvie, I think you say your last name?
Jeff Sylvie.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. All right. Please state your name and the district you live in.
I'm Jeffrey Sylvie. I'm here here virtually as the pastoral council member and chair with Father Dave. I guess I just wanted to state that so I'm not a city resident, so there's no district to be mentioned there. I did want to mention that we've looked at various ways we could make things work with this property, but we keep coming back to the point where, for the safety of others, for the safety of our parishioners, this is not something that's viable long term. As was mentioned very eloquently before, it has great historic value to the city as well as to our parish. But at this point, we need to really consider safety and how to move forward as a team. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you very much.
And that is all we have with raised hands.
Okay, very good. One last call for anyone in the audience who wants to speak. Please state your name and your district.
Certainly. My name's Robert Wilson. I own the property at 9 DeSomme Avenue, right across the street, the dental office. Been there all my life, and I just want to come forward and state for the record that I support the church's application. I don't think that it would be right or just to leave them strapped with that burden and that liability. And somebody who looks out my window there every day, I can tell you with great certainty that I won't greatly miss that building when it's gone. I'm sure it'll look much nicer.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, for the record, there's no one else wanted to speak. Okay, very good. Next
You have
then.
one other person who raised their hand.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, go ahead.
Madeline Rubery.
Hello, can you hear us?
And
Is she
you're
on?
good now.
Can you hear me?
Hello, yes, we can. Please state your name and your district that you live in.
My name is Madeline Rubery. I live in Gaithersburg. I'm actually right now attending the University of Maryland, and I'm a journalism student, and I'm on assignment for one of my classes to write about the proceedings of today's meeting. And I was really curious about this church in particular and this building in particular. And I was wondering, I've seen the support to demolish the building, but I was really moved by the history of it as well. And I was wondering if anything is going to be done to preserve that history once it's demolished and to possibly ensure that its history isn't forgotten in time.
Well, thank you for your comments, but honestly, we don't take inquiries. If you want to make a comment in support or against the demolition, please do so. But it's not the forum for inquiries.
Okay.
Would you like to make any comments for or against the demolition?
Not at the moment. It seems like a lot of people who live nearby are in support of it, so, and I'm not there, so nothing at the moment, no.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, anyone else?
There's our hand.
Oh, yes, please, come on up. Please state your name and your district you live in.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Kavanaugh. I live at 6 George Street, right across from the house. Been living there with my wife for almost 30 some odd years. We have watched this house kind of become abandoned and left as is. It's unfortunate that it's in the shape that it is in, but I think it's beyond any kind of real repairs or kind of retrofit to maybe make it do what the church needs it to do. It would probably require an awful lot of money, which evidently an estimate has been provided. So chances are, I'm in the industry, and I would think that if that was the estimate, there's a pretty good chance that that number would eventually double for them to really do what they probably need to do with it. So I just want to state for the record that I am in favor of the property to be demolished. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Anyone else from the audience? Okay, hear and see no one else. All right, next then is, let's hear from the commissioners. Commissioner Feinstein?
Hi, I have a couple questions. The other two buildings on the site, those are occupied and functioning?
Yes, 10 and 7. Yes.
Okay. And it's one lot, correct?
Correct.
Have you looked into subdividing a lot at all?
I have not. I don't know if that's been looked at before me or I have not.
Okay, because I mean, one consideration as a means to potentially save the house, but also get it off of your burden would be to subdivide the lot potentially and try to sell that portion of the lot where the house is on as a private residence. It seems like I know in the city we've had situations like this before where things like that were accomplished by people looking for a bargain and a potentially gem of a house, and with the desire to take on the project and actually have a use for it, where you guys obviously do not at this point. So it's something that I would encourage if it's something that you would consider. But in terms of our mission here, I guess tonight, we are, we're the Historic District Commission. We have certain responsibilities that I know Sam indicated that the people above us may disagree, but our role is to speak for the houses, speak for the architectural significance, the historic significance of the properties themselves, and this obviously has a lot of both architectural, historical, and cultural significance to the city of Gaithersburg. So I think it's and I think you probably know where we're coming from, that we would be remiss if we did not kind of I guess speak towards that as the Historic District Commission.
All those are great points. Thank you. Commissioner Ramirez?
Yes, I was also taken by how beautiful it is despite the disrepair. I would probably feel different if I was living right across from it and saw every detail. But yeah, what was it? The bays, the cornice, the brackets, the porch, it's so beautiful. So I would be in support of that too, maybe looking into having somebody else refurbish the house and save it for the community. Yeah, historical significance, there's a lot there too. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Next and last, Sam, can you put up I think it's the side elevation photo for us? That's it right there. This is a stunning piece of architecture. I'm kind of frustrated that it was allowed to go into such disrepair. Can you show the front elevation, please? That hasn't been painted in 20 years. Is the door off? this to me is one of the reasons why it's so dilapidated, is because I think it's been abandoned and ignored. And honestly, the ownership doesn't have any legal rights to ignore the safety of the community and the preservation of their property. You're actually required to do that. And so it's very frustrating to me to see that this is at its condition when 20 years ago and 15 years ago and 10 years ago, just a little bit of effort would have saved all of this from going into the disrepair it is. Can we go back to the side elevation, please? It's such a beautiful building, and it is definitely has historic significance with the occupants, with the original owners and all, that I would be saddened to see this thing just taken down, because not all of it is in disrepair. This side elevation, it all needs to have some work on it, obviously, but the other three sides look just like it needs minor repair. I'm not in agreement with this being a $2 million retrofit. We actually did there was a project that I think was completed about 2 years ago that was a much, much larger house, and it had all of the same disrepairs or similar to what this house has. And the owner bought it as an investment and worked very hard and spent a good amount of money on it. But in the end, he came out with the gem that it was. As a matter of fact, if I recall, he bought it right before the wrecking ball got there. It was destined for the next day, and he picked it up, he purchased it. And that project is one of the best buildings, the best homes in this city. So I can't imagine knocking these things down just because the front door was off and allowing people and rats and rodents to move in. It would be a shame to do that. So anyway, you can see where I'm going with this. I would not vote for it. I also am encouraged that the staff agrees that this is both historical significance and architectural significance, which tends to make me believe that perhaps some of the city fathers as well, some of the mayor and council may as well. So based on that, I have nothing further to say. Before we go to a vote, anything further from the commissioner? Okay.
No, I think we're good.
All right.
If I could
Yes,
underscore, and Mr. Chair, you actually touched on, yes, in terms of considering designation, the historic and architectural elements that have been discussed, quite relevant, and certainly what you're here to do. In terms of withholding, the question does come down to your last comment, what's the probability?
Yes.
I do recognize that the staff recommendation, I think the term was more questionable. I would recommend, because the standard is that you do have to find there is a reasonable probability that be part of your consideration as well in identifying a vote for or against, depending on what motion's made, because there's no motion made yet. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure Greg and Sam as well.
I mean, I think to some degree, the reasonable probability is based on the past history in the city of similar buildings that have been saved. So there is a precedent in the city for something similar to this happening, and a building that appeared to be, one step away from being demoed, being rebuilt and becoming a jewel. So, yeah, I think it's hard for us to look, beyond that.
Correct.
And to anticipate what the mayor and city
All
council will do.
I'm advising is that as part of your criterion, not just the historic and architectural significance, but that probability and whatever your analysis is. I'm not here to do that for you, just to make sure those standards are covered.
Yours is a good point, but where I was coming from was from staff recommendation. The staff recommended the motion to withhold the demolition permit, which tends to make me believe that at least one person in the city government is for saving it. So I tend to believe that it would not be working in a vacuum when they wrote that. So I tend to think that there may be favorable. And I also mentioned previously that mayor and council has changed over in the last couple of years. And some of the council members who had voiced strong opinions to not save any of these buildings, they're no longer on as council members. They've gone on to bigger and better things, actually. And the other thing too is that the last time we had a vote, I believe the first discussions when I was watching the video or watching it live was that it was in favor of designation. And then there was a staff member who then spoke against it, and that turned the tide. I think it went from a vote from 3 to 2 to 2 to 3. So I personally do believe that there's a very good chance that this building will be saved. And Mark's recommendation, I think you hit it out of the park, that if the church can't afford to provide the renovation, if they sell the parcel to someone who wants to invest it, that takes the burden away from them. And again, what was the address of the other project I remember?
31 Walker.
We should know that by heart because they're here so often. That is the perfect example, an absolute perfect example of a gem being brought back to life. And so they're based on that. And like I said, I think I know the staff says that in their recommendation to save this. Based on that, I formulated my vote for that, because of those things.
Well, do understand, I'm not fighting anybody. I'm just laying out what the standards are, and
Sure.
would just remind, you have certainly talked about that, but that's the important criterion, not just the architectural element, but the reasonable probability.
Right. Exactly.
You just want to make sure that you do consider that standard and what is the reasonable probability, and the record does reflect that you have some consideration on that. That's all I'm recommending.
No, I
I'm sorry,
appreciate
can
that. And thank you. Never hesitate, Frank, on that stuff for us.
Can you define that for us, Frank? The reasonable probability of finding what?
That the mayor and council will rule
Designate.
to designate this as a historic property.
I see.
Right. The intent is essentially not to hold up, because there are certainly, property rights on either side. The intent of that provision is to prevent holding something up just for the sake of holding it up. But if there is a reason, that's why that requirement's there. So that does require some consideration. Is there a reasonable chance? It doesn't mean a certainty, but a reasonable probability, I believe, is the exact language that's in there. And then, of course, the consideration of the architectural and historic importance to it.
I see.
Anything further before we go to a motion? Okay.
Just in response to the
Yes, sir, please.
subdivision
Mhm.
point, is that the rest of that field, all the way down to 355, is very valuable to us. And so I think that's the main reason we haven't thought about that, because it's not just the house, but it's the whole lot there, which is important for us for church events and so many other things.
Yeah, but it doesn't even have to be subdivided in just 2 parcels. It could be 3 parcels and just the middle portion be sold. There's enough space on that lot. Obviously, just directly adjacent to it is how many parcels? On that same block. So it's something that could be accomplished and still meet the needs of that expanse of land along 355.
Yeah, and I can add the idea that having access to the center parcel directly from the main road is going to be needed, but you can also have like a little alleyway, they call it. Have the parcel have a panhandle that goes to around the road, and you can still maintain continuity from your parcels around that parcel, as long as they have easements to get back and forth across for their driveway and all. That could work. You can have their driveway along the back way if you so like. because it's your property. You can subdivide it any way you want and sell it any way you want. But that way, in that way, you'll have direct access of, like I said, a continuous parcel.
Just to clarify, the city does have a subdivision ordinance and a zoning code, so any subdivision would have to be in conformance with both of those.
Very good point.
I don't think a flag lot necessarily would be something we could approve under the current code or the subdivision because of the frontage requirements. But again, not really what's before you tonight, obviously the subdivision, more about the demolition. But I just want to make that clear.
Well, then, that's a great point. So then maybe they maintain frontage, and then the church still owns the back strip, allowing access to that. So it could be a carved out section that still has frontage, but the church will own the back portion, and there could be access directly back and forth.
I mean, it doesn't need to be frontage to South Frederick. It can be frontage to the adjacent street, correct?
It needs frontage to a street.
Yeah, there's a driveway there now, it looks like.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that right here, they just maintain all this as a right-of-way themselves.
Yeah, we're not zoning people here, so we don't need to get into the specifics, but it's.
No, but is it possible is all I'm worried about, and I think it is.
Okay.
Because I don't want them to have no use of their land.
Obviously.
But in this way, I think they would still maintain use of their land. Particularly if it's contiguous. All right, anything further? Anything further from the applicant before we vote? Okay, all right. I'm open to a motion to either send the city manager a directive to not withhold the demolition permit, or to petition the mayor and council for implementing further study.
I move that the Historic District Commission, based on the exhibit submitted and the staff report findings and recommendation, make a determination that the building 50 years old or older located at 110 South Frederick Avenue meets the criteria for historic and architectural significance as specified in Section 24-226 of the City Code, and directs staff to prepare a resolution of petition to the mayor and council, and directs the city manager to withhold issuance of Demo 31922-2023 for 6 months.
Okay, very good. Anything further to add to? No? Okay, very good.
Is
Second? Yes, sir.
Was there any consideration to include the criterion that, as part of the motion, you find that there is a reasonable probability that the council would designate? That is the statutory requirement that should be included. I understand you're taking a look at that, and that could be a matter if you do it. The question is, do you agree with that in making the motion? And if you do,
just add.
That can simply be said, yes, we'll add that.
So can we just add that? Okay,
Sure.
and
You're
can
okay
you
with that,
put
yeah?
that in?
Yes.
And
If you do agree with that, okay.
okay,
Yes.
and so it wasn't seconded yet, so.
I will second that,
All right, so you seconded the addition?
the motion with the addition.
Perfect, all right. Next then, we'll vote then. So if you're in favor of the motion, say aye. If you are not in favor, say nay, or abstain if you wish. Commissioner Feinstein.
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Aye.
Commissioner Ventola says aye. Motion passes 3-0, that it will be sent to the city manager as a directive to not withhold, or to directive to the mayor and council for implementing further study. So it's a petition to the mayor and council for implementing further study. Okay, that's it. It passes 3-0.
Just to clarify,
Yes,
the
sir.
motion was to have staff prepare a resolution to return at the next meeting for the petition to the mayor and city council of
Okay.
potential designation.
If that's the clarification, yes, I understand that. Okay.
Your clarification is to prepare a resolution at the next meeting for designation. Okay, is that, it's not for further study, it's for designation. Now, as part of designation, that does include further study. So we're all
I'm
clear what
unclear.
was done.
I am very unclear, because here's the thing, I'm all for, if we get to vote on designation, I'm all for that, but that's not what I understood we were allowed to do. I thought that.
No, you are actually, if it's withheld, the purpose is
For us to designate.
not for you to designate, but to petition the mayor and
Well,
council.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Petition the mayor and
designation.
council for implementing further study and for possible designation. Is that how you want it written?
I'm just working, all I can do is work off the code.
Okay.
And it is a reasonable probability and then taking steps to designate in the time that's left. So
Right.
further study and designation, but the petition,
Is for
so that it's
designation.
understood, would have to be for designation.
Yeah, I believe the motion was fine that you made and voted on. I just wanted to clarify the record that what the next steps were.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. All right. Next then,
Thank you.
on the agenda is tax credit applications. We could wait for a moment to have everybody. Welcome back.
It's nice to be back.
All right, so the tax credit application is HIST 9670-2023, certification for Montgomery County tax credit application for 104 Brookes Avenue. May we have an introduction from staff, please?
Yes, so the building at 104 Brookes Avenue, as shown here on the screen, is a 2.5-story frame vernacular style building that was constructed circa 1909 and is contributing to the Brookes, Russell, and Walker's Historic District. The applicants seek a $1,481.25 in historic tax credits to repair a damaged windowsill and prep and paint the house. None of the work required a HOP because it was considered in-kind replacement and maintenance. As shown here on the screen, these are the before and the after photos. Are there any questions?
I have one. I looked through this, but I don't have a recall of seeing any of the invoices. Are they in the package?
Believe so. Let me take a look. So it looks like exhibit number 3 was the receipt, and exhibit number 2 were the receipts transmittal form.
Can you bring them up on the screen for us,
Sure.
please?
It's exhibit number 2 and 3 for the receipts.
If I can get to the S drive here, let's see.
Sam, I can do that.
Okay.
That is exhibit 2 with the receipt,
Great, thank
and
you.
there's exhibit 3 with the receipt.
Great, thank you so much. All right. Is the applicant here, Sam?
No, they're not here.
Okay. And, all right, so the public is now invited to speak. In-person participants, please line up at the podium to be sworn in if there are any. Okay. And if anyone is waiting online, I believe you press the hand button at the bottom of your screen. I assume there's nobody there. Okay. Next then is, let's hear from the commissioners. Commissioner Feinstein.
I like the color you guys selected. It looks really nice, so I have no issues.
Wonderful. All right. Commissioner Roddy.
I think these are matters that are certainly necessary to maintain the integrity of the building. All in favor?
Wonderful. Thank you. Commissioner Ramirez.
I applaud the choice of paint color. It's beautiful.
Okay. For the record, we can't vote on paint color.
No, well, we can
I'm
still
teasing.
approve.
I'm teasing. So Commissioner Ventola says that I agree with everybody up here. All right, so now may I have a motion to either approve or deny certification of this property's tax credit?
I would move that the HDC find that HIST 9670-2023 is eligible for participation in the County Historic Preservation Tax Credit Program.
Wonderful. Second?
I second.
All right, for voting. I support it, the motion. Nay, if you don't, abstain if you wish. Commissioner Feinstein.
Aye.
Commissioner Roddy.
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez.
Aye.
And Commissioner Ventola says aye, passes 4-0. Congratulations, applicant, who's not present. That's Phil, though, right? Wasn't
Yep.
it? Yeah, how about that? She's becoming a land baron. They are. All right, so next then is from staff. Greg?
Nothing for me tonight.
Frank?
Nothing from me.
Sam?
Well, I guess you'll be seeing a little bit more of me as Chris Berger is no longer here. And that's it. It's great to be here in this interim position. Thank you.
Welcome, Sam.
Thank you.
And commissioners, Mark?
Yeah, he stole my thunder, Sam. I was going to say welcome. So.
Welcome, Sam.
Thank you.
That's it?
That's it.
All right. John? Nope. Kathleen?
Nothing from me.
And nothing from me. Anything further from anybody? We're hereby adjourned.